What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Fantasy Sports Insight Showdown breakdown. This is Hold the Door DFS. I've been we've been doing niche showdown content all season for Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night games. I'm really excited to continue to break down these matchups. Tonight's is not the most appealing, but that doesn't really change the fact that we have a slate and we have big GPPs. We can still win cash games. So I think it's still, in my book, considered a playable slate. It's a niche slate. It's a NFL showdown. So let's dive in. Before I get started, if you are not a subscriber, that is the biggest thing that you can do to help us out. And it costs you absolutely nothing just to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up on this video. That helps us out a ton. So if you are a new subscriber, make sure you send either the Fantasy Sports Insight Twitter, a picture, a screenshot, or send myself. My Twitter is linked below as well. And we will get you some free content at Fantasy Sports Insight. Let's get into the slate. We will start with our odds per usual. We'll just quickly check over at Bovada and just kind of go from there. Let's see here. All right, we are ready to go. We have the Jets are going to come in as a 1.5 point favorite against the Broncos. Over under is 41. 41. Wow. Amazing. We go from 55. We're expecting at least 2 less touchdowns, and I think that's even could be a stretch in a game like this. So let's dive into the player pool. The biggest difference here on a slate like this is, like, normally DraftKings wouldn't react so quickly to the news, but the fact that Ripon is priced at 10,200, and we know that he's an undrafted rookie, and I think that, or undrafted free agent. I don't know. It's pretty crazy to see the price tags, but then when you think about the position players that are injured and or overpriced just based on the slate, you kind of have to consider them. But it's not pretty. But let's start with the Denver side. There's been reports all week that there's a chance that all three, Driscoll, they signed Bortles, but I think Ripon is going to be the guy unless it goes bad, which obviously is certainly in play. So Ripon will be the starter, but I don't think you can obviously play Driscoll or Bortles in any fashion, even in GPP at that price. There's no upside. I mean, the upside doesn't, even if they played a full game, it's not even a great play. So Ripon is viable, but definitely not somebody that you need to lock into your lineups. Darnold. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stay on the Denver side. Melvin Gordon, the third top price player of the slate. They've already said that Lindsey's going to be limited, so I think you have a really bad quarterback, and it's a close game, so the game script should never really get out of Gordon's favor. And with a new quarterback like this, obviously they heavily usually rely on checking down to running backs or using their tight end. So I think Melvin Gordon is a phenomenal play and likely the most popular play on the entire slate. A close second being another Denver player would probably be Noah Fant. Again, for the same reasons I like Gordon in the passing game. I think Noah Fant is going to be their best receiver or receiving option. I think obviously Jerry Jeudy is going to be the primary number one wide receiver with Cortland Sutton ruled out. But I still prefer Fant. I think just his floor is higher. I think he has more touchdown equity near the goal line. Jeudy likely would have to break one or get behind the defense. But I think from this perspective, I would rate the Broncos in Melvin Gordon, Fant, then probably Ripon and Jeudy at that point. I get it in cash. People like to go to quarterbacks just because you don't know where else to. You're at least capturing some of the touchdown equity. But I think the risk of Ripon potentially getting benched during the game or just being completely awful in general makes it easier to go to someone like Gordon and Fant in cash. And then even considering somebody like Judy. If we go down on Denver still, we have Lindsey at 6,200, which feels too expensive for somebody that we know is going to be limited. Going down a little bit further, the Broncos defense, this is a slate that I'm like a first slate that I'm actually really considering either one of the defenses or both. 5,600. The crazy thing is that there are 1,600 more than the Jets. Now we know the Jets obviously are probably one of the worst teams in the league. But I think, just a defensive touchdown, I think there's some equity in that between the Jets and the Broncos. And I don't think that I think they can stay in that like 14 to 20 point range of points given up with obviously some sacks. So I think they're both in play, the defenses. I think McManus will be really popular for Denver too. These kickers here, again, probably, not that we're expecting a ton of points, but we're also expecting probably some drives that definitely stop in the red zone that lead to field goals. Also on Denver here is there are two other receiving options, Tim Patrick and KJ Halmer. Halmer more of a deep threat. Again, deep threats are not somebody that I love to target when it's just a brand new quarterback. And I don't know. Tim Patrick and Halmer, fine. I prefer Patrick. Probably has a higher floor. But at that point, I think I prefer maybe leaning to the kickers or the Jets or one of the defenses. But yeah. Moving down a little bit further, I think that's about all we're going to get from Denver here that I really like and would consider. So let's move up to the Jets. Sam Darnold, 10-6, I prefer to the Denver quarterbacks. I think their running game is just so bad that they're going to at least try to pass the ball. And with the likelihood of Crowder returning, I think pairing Darnold with Crowder is a really nice combo. Just because I think Crowder definitely has the upside to be like one of the highest scoring players on the slate. And Darnold's going to be facing a pretty banged up Denver defense. So moving down for the Jets, we have Braxton Berrios. Wonder if he can pitch better than Jose Berrios for the Twins. But Braxton Berrios, what do we know about him? He's played really well the last 2 weeks. He's had a touchdown in the last 2 weeks, 4 targets, 8 targets. Definitely viable at 7,200. I think if Crowder is in, you just are going to play Crowder before you play Berrios. But if you need the $1,000 savings, then I get it. But I do think Crowder just being in regardless, lowers probably the ceiling of somebody like Berrios here. And also like a lot of these games, the Jets have been in really negative game scripts. So they're obviously chucking the ball late, which I think this game is going to be so ugly and slow that I don't think either team is going to be in a position where they're down 2 to 3 touchdowns at one point in the game where they feel like they need to throw the ball. Frank Gore, I don't know how he does it, man. 15 carries, 21 carries. Again, 6,400, sure. He needs a touchdown probably. If he gets a touchdown, you're maybe looking at 13 to 15 points. He definitely then probably pays off the 6,400. But I do think I prefer Judy and Berrios' upside. I know they're more expensive, but in a similar price range. I do prefer Gore to Lindsey. I prefer Gore to Lindsey, and I probably prefer Gore to paying for the Broncos D, but the Jets defense being $1,600 cheaper is definitely a little bit more intriguing. Then we go down. Balaj has been another running back that they've mixed in. We kind of look what he's done. He's done a little bit more through the passing game last week. Didn't play much when Bell was in the first week. Only is going to get a couple carries. So I don't really expect him to run the ball much, but he does have some potential through the passing game. Moving down to Herndon, 5 targets last week. Everybody was on him after week 1, getting 7 targets. Laid a dud in week 2. Wasn't awful in week 3, but you can just tell by the attempts and the yardage that, they're not trying to like throw down the field to him a ton, so I just think he's okay, but I think he needs a touchdown to really do a lot at that price tag. Moving down, Sam Thicken will be the kicker for the Jets. He's viable. Chris Hogan, depending on, obviously we need to check his status closer to lock, but I do think he is certainly viable if he's in. I think we'd see like a three-man, receiving core of Hogan, Crowder, and Berrios. So I think at 3,200, you're getting a pretty nice deal on him if he is in. LaMichael Perrine, another guy who's got some touches last week, 7 carries, 24 yards, caught a couple balls out of the backfield. He's a flyer at 1,800. It's, he probably needs 5 points and he pays off that price tag. But again, not somebody that I'm absolutely in love with. Josh Malone didn't play much last week. He's only somebody that I would maybe consider if we do see like Crowder and Hogan out. Might get an opportunity to step up and play. Other than that, it's going to be a ugly slate. Some ugly football likely played. I'm kind of just hoping like it's actually ugly defense played, and with the Jets, obviously their defense is not good. Denver's defense is super banged up, so maybe this is the perfect storm for some of these. A guy like Sam Darnold to rip off a 300-yard game with 3 TDs, but I don't know that is super likely. But I think just kind of going through ownership here a little bit in cash games, I think you're going to see Melvin Gordon and Darnold, probably the top 2 most expensive players, likely get the most ownership, along with somebody like Noah Fant. I can see people using those 3 and then even possibly going and adding in Crowder. So those would be like my top 4 from the top area. I think this is actually a slate. You see somebody put a defense at captain that could potentially win a GPP, maybe even a kicker. So that's kind of my core 4 there at the top that I'm liking at the start. I think when you get into your builds, deciding who's in your captain role will obviously make that easier or harder to play all 4 of those guys. And on a slate where there's a total of 41 in the over-under, nobody is definitely a lock because we know that points are going to be really hard to come by. So again, I appreciate you tuning in. If you appreciate all this free content that we are putting out at Fantasy Sports Insight, just hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, give me a comment, any of that just goes so far. So I really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to my guy, my crew over in the Monkey Knife Fight Room is always giving me a ton of support and giving us support in our channel. And I love that. And if you want to join that free Discord channel, it's super easy. Just send me a DM on Twitter and I will get you hooked up. It is completely free. And we have people chatting about Monkey Knife Fight place all day long. So get over to Fantasy Sports Insight, hit that subscribe button, and have a good night. Have a good day. Set those lineups and tune in to one of the worst Thursday night games of the season. All right, check it out.